Welcome to the Top Order podcast. We are all as excited as kids at Christmas this week because we're going to be covering the T20 Men's World Cup, about to kick off in India in the next couple of weeks or so. We are going to go through a number of different things this week. Strap in, it's going to be a long pod. Key questions facing the true contenders, most likely to cause an upset. And then we'll also come across some interesting notes about the other teams in the group. That is, if any of us have prepared those interesting notes. We'll also then make our predictions for the semi-finals, top run scorer and wicket taker, and of course a bold prediction as well. And we'll also predict the winner. Have I missed anything? All coming up on the Top Order podcast. Stay tuned. Well, boys, it is a preview show. We've got our normal formats. We're going to come to Baldy in a second for an explainer because we need an explainer. But ultimately, you'll see there's four of us on the pod, the eagle-eyed amongst you. We've got four groups, so we're all going to preview a group. And look, just for the comments and for the format and for any sort of creative content criticism, the way we're going to do this is we don't have time to go into every single team in the World Cup, do we, boys? Because we've all got jobs. We've all got to be at work Monday morning. So we are only going to cover who we think are the real key contenders, aren't we, from the group. So we'll talk a little bit about who might cause an upset. But if you're looking for a comprehensive overview of all 20 teams, other podcasts are available. We're going to talk with a bit of patriotism. Baldy, I'm looking at you about your own team. You've got some criticism in the past. I want to see you rev up about these green and gold boys, okay?
Okay.
None of this reverse Mars won't make it out the green. I don't want any of that, all right? But we're going to come to you first because I think the format deserves a little bit of content on its own, just to explain how these four groups are going to produce four semi-finalists for us as well.
Stretching. Yeah, I'm warming up. Here we go. Right. Here's the tournament structure, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, humans and agents alike. We start with 20 teams in this T20 World Cup for men. We split them into four groups of 5. Each one in their group plays each other once. It's 4 games. And only the top 2 in each group go through to the next round. That gives us 8 teams, and that's why they call it the Super 8 round. In those Super 8s, those 8 teams get divided into 2 pools of 4. More on that in a minute. Each team in that pool of 4 plays each other once. That's 3 matches. After that, the top 2 teams in each of the Super 8 pools cross over. Number 1 in this pool plays number 2 in this pool. Number 1 in this pool plays number 2 in this pool. They're called the semi-finals. They will be played at Eden Gardens in Kolkata, except if Pakistan make it, then we'll move that to Sri Lanka. Semi-final number 2 will be at the Wankhede Stadium in Mumbai. And the final will be at the Narendra Modi Stadium in Ahmedabad on the 8th of March, unless Pakistan make the final, in which case we'll move that one to Sri Lanka as well. The seedings for the Super 8 are important because your relative finish in the group stage, in the pool stage, makes not a jot of difference. Doesn't mean anything at all. It's like a cow point. It's a moo point. Doesn't matter. Okay? So the ICC, in all their wisdom, have assigned pre-assigned seedings for all of these groups. Helps with logistics and makes sure that the right teams play each other. So in one pool, we have Australia, India, Sri Lanka, and the West Indies.
Yep.
In the other pool...
South Africa and the West Indies.
Oh, sorry, South Africa and the West Indies. In the other pool, thank you, Raj. Good from you. In the other pool, New Zealand, Pakistan, India, and Sri Lanka. Now, if one of those teams miss out...
Don't finish top 2 in their group.
Don't finish top 2 in their group. Thank you, Stu. Good correction from you. This is why we have more than one person on the pod. The team that makes it in their place will assume their spot in the pool. So if Australia and Zimbabwe go through from Pool A, Australia will go into the same group that they were supposed to be in, and Zimbabwe will go in instead of Sri Lanka, so they'll end up playing England, Pakistan, and New Zealand.
If that happens, I'll eat Matthew Hayden's hat. There you go.
Exciting. You're going to need a lot of barbecue sauce. That's a big-ass hat. Right, now, the thing that we're all worried about is rain. So are there rain delays, Binksy? I'm glad you asked me. There are no reserve days scheduled for the group matches or the Super 8s. No result, point shared. There are reserve days for the semi-final and the final. If the match cannot be completed on the allocated day, you come back and continue the match the following day. If there are no results in the final, shared winners.
Okay.
And there's your T20 World Cup explainer.
Very quick, very concise. Well done.
Right.
Thank you.
Any questions?
Where's it going to rain? I'll tell you where it's going to rain. It's going to rain in Sri Lanka at the Pallekele Stadium. I did extensive analysis, i.e. I asked large language model.
Which one? We don't know about accuracy.
Several. I actually used the ChatGPT 5.2 analyst model, which is the most recent version of
so
the
it'll
open.
be slightly off, is what you're telling me.
Sure. I mean, there are lots of models. We can go into it later, Raj. I've got plenty of time for it later.
Put that on your other podcast, dickheads. Come on. Let's get on with the cricket.
In terms of weather, it is most likely to rain in Colombo and Kandy. Varying degrees of, are you going to get heavy rain or light rain? Anyway, long story short, Sri Lankan games are most likely to be affected by rain. Least likely that the Narendra Modi Stadium is going to be affected by rain statistically. But of course, games of cricket are never played on paper. They're played on grass. So there you go. Bit of rain analysis. We'll come to that in the Group A fixtures, by the way.
Very good. Right. Well, that does lead us neatly into the Group A preview, doesn't it? So let's run through that. This is the group with India and Pakistan in it. Raj, I think it's over to you to talk about this.
Over to me, thank you. Are you guys hot? I'm actually sweating.
I'm
Very
hot, yeah.
warm here.
It is
yeah.
very hot.
It is very hot in the studio.
Not only because we're talking about India and Pakistan, but let's start with India. The host. I've got them listed as the juggernaut of this World Cup. I do have them as the favourite. They're a side with a lot of pressure on them, though, I think. Under Gambia's leadership, we've seen this ship go off course, on course, all over the place over the last 3 years. But they go into a home World Cup, all the pressure on them, the post-Kohli Rohit era that they're currently in. But, with consistency, something they need to find. But what they don't need to find is depth. They are an extremely deep Indian side. Bumrah, Sky, Hardik, Kishan, Abhishek Sharma, Kuldeep, Chakravarthy. These guys are all match winners in their own right. It's not a group or a sum of all parts. They can win a game on their own. Mm-hmm. There's so many of these players in this team. As I said, I've got them as my sort of favourites for the World Cup. Well, what do you guys make of India?
I mean, they're in pretty good form, having just demolished New Zealand. I mean, we're speaking overnight here in New Zealand. This is a Sunday night here in New Zealand. They just scored 270 against us, and New Zealand put up a pretty good fight, actually. It's not too often you get 225 in a T20 and lose by almost 50. So, yeah, we've certainly seen the firepower that they have. I mean, throwing it back to you in terms of questions, in that series, I think the big question was going to be, how is this batting lineup going to look? Because there's Tilak Varma's not been in that lineup, and it seemed like there's been a bit of a shootout between Sanju Samson and Ishan Kishan for that spot. Mm-hmm. Kishan's got to have earned that, doesn't he? I mean, he's just coming off 100 now, right?
After his last game, I would be very surprised if he didn't sort of make that team. But India's always been the kind of team that plays horses for courses in terms of they'll play who they think is best for the matchup in front of them. They're so deep. Any player on that list can win the game. They don't have to. They can play the form players that they need to. They don't have to go in with a predetermined idea.
Does that give you a concern about role clarity then, or do you think that they're good enough and big enough and experienced enough that that's not an issue?
That's more of a question around what their dressing room looks like. That is a question mark for me. The stuff that we've had with Gambia over the last sort of 6 months, 3 years, whatever that is. The beauty of T20 cricket is that you just go out there and hit the ball. You go out there and you bowl the ball. There is a little bit less in terms of strategy and all of that. At the end of the day, see ball, hit ball, I think is going to, if they boil it down to that, I think that they'll go far deep into this tournament.
Binksy, can I just throw to you in terms of what we're going to see? I mean, in terms of India's going to have to go. India, we've seen in this New Zealand series, the pitches in India look very batter friendly. The ones that we've seen at the moment. We're going to be going to Pakistan or to Sri Lanka, for some of these games. English side is going to be over or has been over in Sri Lanka. How much difference is that going to make on the tournament, do you think? Because a lot of these teams, like Pakistan in the same group, is going to be playing in Sri Lanka for that whole tournament.
Yeah, so I think, this is one of the things, right? So I think, and this is not a bash at India, by the way. So I think there's a lot of clarity in terms of the way that this tournament works in terms of the seedings. I think that there could be a narrative that, India should be favourites because they'll know they'll play all of their games at home and they know exactly where they're going to play their semi-final and all that kind of jazz. But that's the same for everyone. Everyone's got the same opportunity to do the planning for the venues that they're going to play at most likely throughout the course of the tournament. What will shift, though, is that those teams that have played in Sri Lanka probably won't have played on the same batter-friendly wickets all the way through. I've been watching both the series with the Black Caps and India and also England and Sri Lanka, and it's been like watching two different types of cricket in terms of the way that the game's been played. A little bit more old-fashioned in Sri Lanka. You've had to try and keep wickets in hand to have a slog. At times, you've had to rotate the strike and hit the ball on the deck and pick up twos into pockets and things like that quite a lot in this ODI and T20 series in Sri Lanka. What do I predict? I think we're going to see those really good wickets because I think India have got the firepower that no one is really going to catch them. I don't think if they bat through their depth throughout the course of the tournament on good wickets. I think the only way that we let people into the tournament is if it spins. So I think we will see for a number of reasons. Obviously, it's an ICC tournament, not an Indian tournament. So the pitches are under the auspices of the curator, I believe, rather than the home boards, etc. But I think we're going to see flat decks, and I think that really plays into India's hands. The only potential issue I can see for India is if you look at the way their fixtures work, I think they play Pakistan last in their group, so that they kind of play the minnows, if you like. There might be one game after that, but it's certainly one of their later fixtures in the group stages. So sorry, no, the Netherlands is their last one. So I think what the reason I bring that up is I think there might be a scenario where only their top 3 or 4 batters have had a hit during the early part of the tournament. And then when you come into the business end, is everybody in form and able to go out and do the business? But to be honest, that's the only thing I think that can stop India. And I'm sure by the time we get through our first opening comments, we might as well just finish the pod, say India are going to win and go home. Because it looks like the engraver's already sort of mocked up what the trophy looks like, I think.
Before we move on to Pakistan, are there any other questions for India, do you think, Raj? Selection questions or?
I don't. It's just what their makeup looks like in terms of how many spinners they take in, how many fast bowlers they take in, all-rounders. It's just what their makeup is. And I actually don't think that's the most important thing. I think it's more important that they turn up in the right mind frame about how to win games rather than who's in the team. Mm-hmm. Let's move on to Pakistan because we're at 13 minutes and we've done one team. Okay, so Pakistan is the likely other contender in this group, Group A. As usual with Pakistan, there is a little bit of chaos amongst the ranks in Pakistani cricket at the moment. We've had a captaincy shift with Salman Ali Agha taking over the captain's armband. Babar coming in at 4. I don't know if you've seen that in the warm-up games,
Australian games
with Australia, rather than anchoring that innings at the top, which is what I was expecting, but obviously not. That's not what they're doing at the moment. Going back to sort of Ali Agha along with sort of Fakhar Zaman, those are the guys that need to score at 150 strike rate in terms of batting around Babar, scoring runs quickly. If they don't come off, or the others in that sort of top 5 that are not Babar don't score quickly, I think Pakistan may lack that firepower to get to 200, which, look, from what we've seen, is going to be required by the looks of things and how these games have gone over the last sort of month or so. You're going to have to score a lot of runs.
Well, I was going to say, do you think it might be the opposite, though, for Pakistan, in that it actually might suit them that they'll be playing most of their games, or all of their games, in Sri Lanka, and they do seem to have a decent spin attack. Yeah, I feel like the lower scores might actually help in the sense that, you've just said, maybe one of their main weaknesses is they don't have that firepower.
Well, that's an interesting way to look at it. I guess the way I look at it, if I'm looking at the bowling attack from bowling perspective, they've got a world-class seam attack in the likes of your man Charlie Shaheen, Freddie at the top of the innings, Naseem Shah's there as well. But when I look at their bowling, I think that they actually may have a little bit of a deficit to the other teams in terms of their spin battery. I mean, they've got, Abra Ahmed, but I mean, he's in the infancy of his career. They've got Shadab Khan, who is their sort of all-rounder, who has had sort of a patchy return sort of performances throughout his career. I think that it could be a weakness for them. But look, at the end of the day, this is my final sort of summary on Pakistan. At the end of the day, whenever we talk about Pakistan at these tournaments, they are that mercurial side that's capable of winning or losing to any opposition on any given day. So, yeah, you've asked great questions. I don't know the answer to all of them, but the answer for me is what turns up on the day is how they're going to play. You never know.
It feels like it's equally likely that they could lose to the Netherlands in group play, and they could also play in the final in the same tournament.
And that's their first game of the tournament is against Netherlands.
Yeah. So
we do wish that one day this won't be a cliche that we have to pull out, right? But it is that kind of every single time you see Pakistan, it's something different.
I will say I've been watching the T20 series between Australia and Pakistan, and those two spinners you mentioned, Shadab and Abra, have been excellent. They've bowled terrific lengths. They've bowled really good changes of pace. That the wicket was up and down in that second T20 for sure. The ball that dismissed Travis Head was very short and kept very low, but they have been awesome. Particularly Shadab, the one that went through Cooper Connolly was a leg spinner's dream. They are in good form, those guys. So if they're carrying a deficit on paper, I think that their self-belief is as high, particularly for those two spinners, as it's ever been.
Don't sleep on Sam Ayub as well. I like him.
Sure. But he's not in the class of the other two guys. I mean, Australia made him look good, to be fair. They made a lot of mistakes against Sam Ayub. Yeah, he put the ball in the right spot, but we made them look good.
The other thing that we need to sort of take into account is that this is a long format tournament. We're talking about Pakistan turning up on any given day and beating whoever they're playing. They've got to do that every time, though. They've got to actually be consistent all the way throughout the tournament. When things start to get a little bit hairy in the Super 8s, it's experience that comes to the fore. And I'm not sure that they've got that.
Yeah, I was going to make that point. I was going to make that point, Raj, really quickly. I think one of the things that is going to hinder Pakistan is they just don't have the same franchise opportunities as others around the world, and that's not just the IPL. You just don't see as many Pakistan players, rocking up in the 100 or in the Big Bash. So yeah, I think there needs to be a lot more of that for them to be more consistent and to ditch the sort of mercurial tag that we seem to give them in every single tournament. That was all I wanted to say.
Perfect. So I'm not sure if you fellas know, India and Pakistan, they don't really get along. It's been sort of 70, 80 years now. In terms of World Cup fixtures, in 2020 format, India holds a 7-1 record over them in terms of that stranglehold on this fixture. But if I was to look at who is the most likely to cause an upset in Group A, I'm actually going to choose the Netherlands. Everyone's sort of talking about the USA. They've, they had a good showing in 2024. They've got Major League Cricket behind them now. But I'm going to go with Netherlands. I think they're better equipped. They've retained that sort of golden core with Scott Edwards, Buster Leddy, and Rolf van der Merwe.
Don't forget the Kiwis.
The other thing that I think could fall into their hands a little bit is we've talked a lot about spin and how that is going to play out in this tournament. We're making a few assumptions about what we think the pitches are going to look like. If they start playing on pitches that actually are a little bit drier, they actually have a pretty good spin trio of Aryan Dutt, Van der Merwe, who we've mentioned, and Colin Ackerman that they can turn to that could turn games. This is not a long format in terms of overs game. This is a 2020 game. If you squeeze them for 6 overs in the middle, that could change everything. And they've got the ability to do that. They're playing Pakistan first in the tournament, and they're playing India last in the tournament. So, those are the two positions where upsets can happen, I think. So, yeah, if anyone's going to take or have it cause an upset in this group, I think it could be the Netherlands.
I was just going to say on the USA, it's a shame. I feel like that there was a lot of hope, I think, that there was going to be an advancement from that last tournament. Obviously, it was hosted there. They performed above expectations. But it just seems, I mean, people will know better than I do, but it seems like there's so much back behind the scenes sort of stuff causing problems in the USA that is really, I know they've kept some of the same core players, Mitrovalka's there, Andreas Hoos is there, but, that it just seems like there are too many problems behind the scenes, and the hope that we had that then moving into LA and stuff, it just isn't happening. Maybe they'll prove me wrong, but I don't know. I would almost back them to be last in this group.
Yeah, they need patience, I think. They need to realise it isn't going to be host a World Cup and then all of a sudden be a world power. That was the start for them, I think. But yeah, we haven't got time to cover all of that. Maybe on our next episode or on the Patreon. Let's move on to Group B. So someone give Baldy a dig in the ribs and get him revved up because he's going to talk about his home nation, Ashes winners and all that kind of jazz. So Baldy, over to you for Group
start
Group
with
B.
the Aussie chap.
No.
Just checking.
They'll make it out of the group, though, won't
What? Yeah. Oh, yeah. Don't worry about that.
Make it out of the group.
Yeah, don't worry about that. Here's the thing, boys. Here's the thing. I've been heavily emotionally invested in Australian cricket for the last 9 months, build up to the Ashes and playing of the Ashes, etc. I have very little expectation for this Australian team in this T20 World Cup. So anything past the group stage for me is a bonus. So whereas typically I would go into a preview show or an Ashes preview and go, I'm concerned about Australia. My concerns, I have them, but I'm not as emotionally invested in them. So,
Okay.
Look, the T20 series, if you just watch the T20 series against Pakistan and you just watch those two games over the last 72 hours or 96 hours, you would have a look at that Australian side and go, gee, there's just some problems. Australia's got some big problems. We're going to go play in Asia and we've just been routed by Pakistan spinners and they've made us look like they've made our middle order look god ordinary, to be fair. But we have to note a couple of things here, right? One, we often come into World Cups in Asia with some pretty patchy form going in, and we often come into World Cups in Asia with not our full side playing in the warm-up matches. So we were missing Maxwell, Stoinis and David, who would naturally replace probably Renshaw, probably Cooper Connolly wouldn't necessarily bat at 6. You've got Inglis in there. Where does he bat in that order, etc.? So there's lots of little machinations in that middle order to iron themselves out as we get into the tournament. It's also worth pointing out that Tim David will have a return to play fitness recovery policy. So I don't think we'll see him necessarily in the first couple of games, but they're hoping that he'll be fit maybe back half of the group stage, etc. So the downside is it looks pretty thorny right now. There's not a lot of roses if you just look at the Pakistan series, but like Raj said, we've got match winners in that Australian side. Head and Marsh at the top. We've got Maxwell, who's a potential match winner, even though at 37, maybe we're relying on him a little bit too much. I think Tim David is the big one for me in the middle order. He is the guy who I think Australia will need to step up if they're going to win 4 out of 5 games once we get to the Super 8s, if we're going to get as far as the final. I think he's going to need to have 3 match-winning innings for Australia in that middle order. We're going to need to get something out of Cameron Green at number 3. He becomes a very, very important cog in that T20 side for us. Looked okay in that second T20 against Pakistan, got 30-odd, and then got out to the mystery spinner. But I think it's the bowlers. I think we were only going to go as far as our bowlers can take us, because looking at the Pakistan series, again, do we read too much into it? We had most of our bowlers there other than Hazelwood, and they all got tonked other than Zampa. So the 3rd, 4th, 5th bowling options, if it's going to be Connolly, if it's going to be Bartlett in combination with Hazelwood, or if it's going to be Ellis or Dwarshus or whoever the seamers that they pick there.
Oh, Ellis is definitely in, isn't he? I feel like he's in the top echelon of like T20 bowlers now.
Potentially, but the makeup of the bowling is what's going to be really interesting, because if you go with Ellis, Kuhnemann, Zampa and Hazelwood 8, 9, 10, 11, there is, I'm going to be unkind to Nathan Ellis here, so if you're watching, Nathan, I apologise now. That is 0 batting that we get from 8 down. 0.
I was going to say, can you play Kuhnemann and Zampa
And
same
Connolly.
lineup?
I don't think you could play Kuhnemann, Zampa, and Connolly all together.
But I mean,
think
Connolly's essentially a batsman, right?
is he a top 6 batter in that World Cup?
Can be.
He averages 3.5 at the moment.
In international cricket, you've got to look at it as a whole.
Yeah, but he averages 20 in T20 cricket.
But he was good in the Big Bash.
I get it.
Which is pretty recent form.
Yes.
If you're going to say the Pakistani bowlers are bowling well in this series, they're in form.
Yes, he has good domestic form, but we have yet to see it in international cricket with the bat. We've seen him take 5 for with the ball in one-day international cricket. We haven't seen it with the bat yet, really, in international.
I don't think he's the linchpin that holds everything together.
No, he's got to be he's got to be the 7 or 8. Batting 7 or 8, being the 4th or 5th bowler bonus option for Australia, which means our top 3 bowlers have to be absolutely on point.
So back to the original question, do you see Kuhnemann and Zampa playing in the same 11?
I can't see Australia having a balanced side with both of those guys in the lineup, because I think we get 8 good overs ostensibly of spin, but it leaves such a long tail that it makes me quite nervous. And it means that our margin for error with our top 7 in our batting is just about 0 come semi-final.
And I guess also traditionally you do the whole Maxwell.
Yeah, he'll bowl some.
Yeah, Maxwell,
Stoinis, Green, Travis Head, those kind of guys. Like maybe we get an over out of each of those dudes. So yeah, we do need four really good bowling options and then some bonus. But yeah, I think we are at our best when Connolly bats around 7.5. in the lineup, somewhere around there, because then we've got a reasonably deep batting lineup. We've got a few break glass guys in case of emergency.
And for anyone who hasn't realised, Pat Cummins has just pulled out.
So Pat Cummins is out and Matt Short is out, which I thought was an interesting one, because the natural replacement for Matt Short in this T20 side would be Steve Smith.
Yeah, do you think that's a mistake?
I think it's a huge mistake. Absolutely huge mistake. He's massively informed T20. Forget the fact that he opens the batting. In those low chases, those low-scoring games, you need a guy like Smith that can kind of assess the conditions and do anything. As much as I love Matt Renshaw, I love Matt Renshaw, but he's not Steve Smith. And I think the experience that he could have brought to this tournament at this time, it's a perfect storm for him. I can't believe we didn't pick him. I think it's a huge mistake. Even if he batted at 3 and you had Cameron Green at 4, perfectly happy with that. Then you've got 5, 6, 7, 8 huge stroke-making ability. Great. But I think we've missed a trick without Smudge. As much as I think you guys would hate to see him in the Australian lineup, I think we've missed a trick not picking him Binksy.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. It echoes England's selection, which I'm sure we'll come on to.
Right?
If you were an opposition team, how would you attack Australia?
How would I attack Australia? I think it all comes down to taking 2 wickets in the power play. You take 2 wickets in the power play and you are on top of this Australia. Head and Marsh, Marsh and Green. I think if you get into that middle order early and you force Tim David to do a lot of work without much momentum behind him, you force Maxwell to play multiple big innings of substance, then you're starting asking questions of, can Cooper Connolly craft 80 or 50 balls for the first time in his career in the international stage? Those are going to be big questions asked of that Australian middle order.
Do you think teams will go after Zampa Baldy as well?
I don't think so. I think they might sit on him. I think they might sit on him. He's been excellent against Pakistan. He's got Bubba's number. I think it's possible that they go, you know what, we can go after Bartlett. If Bartlett plays, he looked hittable in that game. Yeah. I think you're going to have to go after the non-Hazelwood and Zampa overs and try and get 12 big overs, because I think that's our weakness at this point.
Yeah.
Anything more on Ollie, or are we on to Sri Lanka?
No, can we move on to the other sides? We'll come on to the semi-finalists, and then you can have a dig at me for not believing enough of my team at that point. We'll go from there.
Spoiler alert.
Spoiler alert.
So who's the other getting out of the group play?
So in this group, you've got Sri Lanka, who are at home hosting all of their group games. You've got Zimbabwe and Ireland, and you've got Oman. So other than the fact that Oman beat, I think it was Ireland in their T20 debut tournament back in 2016, I think we can rule them out as a contender. So let's talk about Sri Lanka, Ireland and Zimbabwe. As far as Sri Lanka are concerned, home conditions makes them a massive X factor, right? So they should know their conditions better than anyone. They, a bit like Pakistan, Raj, are going through some massive off-field turmoil, both, micro stuff within their team, captain selections, selectors not picking maybe who the captain wants, 38-year-olds coming back into the side and in place of form young players. There's a little bit there for that team to can they put aside that selection controversy and that external factors and play their best cricket in front of their home fans? Because they're going to get tremendous support in the group stage. Are they going to get tremendous support in the Super 8 stage? But can they put all of that kind of stuff to the side and play their best cricket? They've got all the things from a condition standpoint, from an environment standpoint, where the games are going to be played, that suits their style of play, that suits their two pace bowlers, that suits their spin attack, that suits the way they want to bat. Huge opportunity, to borrow a phrase from the Irish, for Sri Lanka to go through the group and make some big noise in this tournament. Because when they get into the Super 8 stage, I think that Super 8's bracket that they will go into could potentially be wide open. There'll be lots of X Factor teams in that group.
Binksy, what have you made of Sri Lanka watching them in this recent series?
Yeah, I mean, England have won their first white ball series since 1913. So, look, it's surprising that we won that ODI series 2-1, and we're 1-0 up in the T20 series as well. But I think it's been a lot closer than that probably suggests. I think the interesting thing will be that, will be the decks. And what I would take away from seeing the game so far, Sri Lanka actually looked better on the better wickets. Yeah,
they did. That T20, they looked a much better side, eh?
Yeah, when it's been those kind of wickets that have turned a little bit too much, have been a little bit stodgier. I think that's actually been to Sri Lanka's detriment. I think they've looked better when we've played on the better wickets. So I really like Nasanka at the top of the order. We know how good Vishal Mendes is.
Yes.
And then they've got some real canny spin bowling as well. And I think one of the things that you'll see or have seen in this series, which would need to be better for both of the teams playing in this series if they're going to progress in the T20 World Cup, is the fielding, because the fielding has been poor from both England and Sri Lanka. So I think that that's probably an area that they'll be looking to improve upon.
Yeah. They couldn't catch a cold in that first T20, and they had opportunities to beat England if they had taken their chances, and they dropped two sitters in the outfield. It was really
in fairness, it was very, very moist.
Yep.
Yeah.
Fairness, fair deuce, but a couple of those catches you'd expect international sides to take.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right. Any other thing on Sri Lanka before we move on? I'm keen to move on.
You can move on. They've got a lot of fun players. Patirana, Thikshana, Hasaranga. Fun team for me to watch.
Yeah, exactly. A fun, exciting team to watch. And if they actually make it to the Super 8s, I think they will become a really interesting side to watch as we progress through the tournament. In order to get to the Super 8s, though, they have to beat enough teams to finish second in the group. And I think the danger to them will be both Zimbabwe and Ireland. I don't think Oman's going to make a lot of noise. Cue everyone betting on Oman to at least win one game.
Because the comments are going to blow up.
Yeah, look, I apologise to all Omani cricket fans. Look, they could make some noise. They beat Ireland in the T20 World Cup in 2016. I don't think they're going to make noise. What are Zimbabwe and Ireland going to do? If you have a look at their records against each other, I think it's 8-8 in T20 internationals. So it's a bit of a toss-up. I think the question becomes, Zimbabwe have played a lot of cricket in the last 12 months. They've played lots and lots of cricket. Have they played enough together to give them a lot more confidence than an Ireland team that haven't played maybe as much cricket? But at World Cup time, Ireland are a giant killer. They are, beat Pakistan, beat lots of teams, beat the West Indies, beat all sorts of teams at the T20 and 50 over World Cup. They beat West Indies, Scotland and England in 2022. Unfortunately, against Sri Lanka in T20s, they're 0-3. So they've got a hill to climb there. I don't know. It's a 50-50 toss-up. That game will decide if either side can possibly get out of the group. But I honestly, I can't see either side getting past Sri Lanka at this point. Can you guys see either of those sides making an upset?
The name of the segment was Pick Your Upset, though, not sit on the fence with who are the potential upsets, but not pick one.
Yeah, Ireland, if there's going to be one, would be my pick.
Okay.
But I'm not picking one.
There you have it.
That's Group B.
Group C must be you, Binksy, England.
Yeah, Group C is England. So in the group with England, West Indies, Italy, Nepal and Scotland. I I've got two versions of my sort of notes. I actually can't figure out where I sit with this England side. Part of me, and my kind of first thought was, I don't understand how their lineup works. I just don't look at the squad and see enough quality in it. There's too many bits and pieces players that, you know, the likes of Curran and Jackson, Overton and Dawson and a bit of Ryan Ahmed, and why is Ben Duckett there, and why is Joe Root at home, and all that kind of stuff. But then I actually look at the rankings, and we're ranked 3 in the world in T20 cricket, and we've got some firepower with, you know, Joss Buttler and Harry Brook and Phil Salts. We've got, you know, the heir to world cricket apparent, Jacob Bethel, with his flowing blonde locks and his poor disciplinary record. And so, yeah, we've got a whole lot of stuff to like as well at the top of that batting order. But then I think when I then sort of look at it as well, where are our bankers with the ball? And you kind of look at obviously Adil Rashid, and you probably look at Jofra Archer, and then there's some question marks around where are your 20 overs coming from every week. So I really don't know what to think. I think we get out of the group, I don't think that's an issue. But I've got a lot of questions about how they're going to adapt if their first choice 11, because I think they've pretty much got that nailed down. If that doesn't work, for me, the guys on the bench are Luke Wood, Josh Tongue, Ben Duckett and Ryan Ahmed. When someone comes out of that, it doesn't look for me as if you've got sort of like for like slots. There's a bit of shuffling that will need to go on, would be my take on the English side. So that, I don't have a lot more to say on England than that. It's hard to be bullish about English cricket at the moment after the Ashes, and obviously there's a lot of off-field stuff, and I think this off-field stuff is I think the British press are apoplectic about this Harry Brook, Josh Tongue, Jacob Bethel thing, and I think I really think whether it's Rob Key or whoever, someone needs to go and have a conversation with the BBC and just say, you need to shut up here, otherwise you could potentially derail this World Cup for us. I understand that you're angry about it, and you don't think we've handled it very well, but these are HR issues. They're not meant to be in the public domain. It isn't any of your business whether you like it or not. Can you shut up? Because otherwise you're going to derail the tournament for this team. Let's talk about it, afterwards. Anyway, that's that's
interesting because we haven't actually talked about that, but I 100% agree that I couldn't believe I was reading an article about it last week when it happened like years ago when the dinosaurs were around. I couldn't believe we were talking about. Anyway, moving on. When I think about England, though, I think that one side of the ball almost doesn't matter. I feel like they could chase any score and they could defend any score. And I think about them more than anyone else, that they have the ability to do that. Harry Brook gets going. Jacob Bethel gets going. They can chase 300. Jofra Archer gets going. He can take 5 wickets in the power play. Adil Rashid can hold the middle. I think that you're being a little bit negative on them and doing what you accuse Baldy of perhaps doing.
I can see how you come to that. Having gone through this, Binksy, I'll defend you a little bit last week, talking about McCullum and I guess the negativity around English cricket. I can see from your point of view how, I had written the same thing. I really don't know what to expect from them as my notes, exactly like you said, a lot of firepower and a lot of, how Curran, Overton, Jacks. Where's he going to bat in that lineup if he plays?
So I think about like 8 maybe. They really like Overton and think Overton can kind of do that job. He's been batting as high as 7. I think Jacks is probably the one that might, they might slide him out for a bit of Luke Wood potentially, although that obviously weakens the batting, or they might think that Ryan Ahmed's a better option. But I think I think where you look where I am sort of positive is that we've got a number of guys that have got just fantastic T20 credentials and form. Phil Salt has been amazing for the last 18 months or so, both for England and in the franchise stuff. Josh Buttler, I think he's our best ever white ball player from an England perspective, I think. And then I think you've got the likes of Harry Brook. Sam Curran has been amazing. He just gets on a plane, goes wherever he's asked to go, and seems to perform in every single franchise league that he plays in. So there's a lot to be positive about. I think it's just that off the field noise, and for me, I just don't get the way that their team lines up. But yeah, the rankings suggest something different.
Binksy, one last question before we move on from England to the other teams in your group. Who's your Chris Jordan? Who's the death bowler in this unit?
Well, I think Jofra Archer will be one of the death bowlers, and then I think they'll probably have Adil Rashid saving one of his, not for the death, the last 2 or 3 overs, but I think he'll bowl 16, 17, something like that. And then I think they're going to have to go to a combination of Overton and Curran, depending on probably the pitch and where they want to hit. Curran's got this dog shit slower ball that I think that people are going to pick up on at some point. Yeah, that there is a 40 mile an hour off spinner coming at some point.
Is that trademarked, that name?
I don't know. We trademark it here, but yeah. So I think that's where you'll see the seam bowling, the seam bowling stuff come from. I think if you get a Luke Wood or a Josh Tongue, I think Tongue comes in and probably bowls middle overs rather than death overs for me. So I think your seam bowling options, as I said, a combination of Archer, Overton, and maybe a bit of Curran. Should we move on to West Indies?
Yeah, well, I was going to say, West Indies, now that Bangladesh is not in this group, obviously, they were supposed to be there, been replaced by Scotland. West Indies is the clear pick to come out along with England?
Well, I've got them as the clear pick to come out. I'm actually a little bit positive on the West Indies, and part of the reason I'm positive on the West Indies is I think when you look at the ages of these guys, the amount of cricket they've played together, the obvious facts that again, bit of a cliche, but West Indian players tend to do well around the franchise world. Okay, they've had some retirement, so you've not got some of that old guard in there. But I really like the fact they've got Roshan Chase and Akil Hussain and Gudakesh Moti. I think they've got spin bowling bases covered, and I think we've seen some excellent stuff from some of their seamers as well. So I think Seals has been good, Shamar Joseph has been good, Matthew Ford has been good. So I really think that they've got a very decent little bowling attack to go and do some damage. And it's then just whether or not they can get 4 or 5 guys firing from a batting perspective. That's where they might look a little bit weaker. But again, they've got the likes of your Shimron Hetmeyers and your Rovman Powells and who else have you got in
Charles.
there? Ramar, you've got a bunch of guys, and you've got a little bit of experience in that squad as well. Whether they play in like Sir Jason Holder, etc. So I think they definitely get out of the group.
Puran's not there, no.
Why isn't he there?
Johnson Charles is there.
Raj, I was going to say on the West Indies, the thing that struck me when they were here in New Zealand was that just the sheer depth of that batting lineup and the power that they have in those lower order hitters. I mean,
they're out of the game all the time, and they came back.
It started to become terrifying when Romario Shepherd was coming in at 8 or 9, and even like Matthew Ford and Akil Hussain. I think Matthew Ford and Akil Hussain were batting like 10 and 11, and both of those guys can just clear the fence as well. So I would say that might be, even if we're thinking, okay, maybe there is some inconsistency in some of their players in the top order, the fact that they can just go and go and go all the way down to 11 I think, will be a strength for them.
Yeah, I mean, they've sort of built their team like that for a few years now with having those batsmen all the way down. Unfortunately, I don't know if that's actually more a reflection on how New Zealand closed out games with the ball than how West Indies went. But I liked their fight, so I think they're also the clear favourite to come out of this.
Anything on the others, Binksy? The other three sides?
Yeah, no. So I guess my upset out of the group, I'm actually going to say that I think Scotland are my potential upset out of that group. And there's a couple of reasons for that. So number one, I think when you look at it, it's pretty close in terms of the way that the qualification worked for the smaller teams with the playoffs and all that kind of stuff. And Scotland obviously got picked. But from a ranking perspective, they are the highest ranked of the three. Can we call them minnows? That's harsh, but yeah, they are the top ranked of the three minnows in that group. It's Italy and Nepal obviously being the other ones. I think the other thing is that when you are a smaller team coming into a T20 World Cup and you've qualified and you're getting fitted for your blazers and all that kind of stuff, there's this excitement building and, this kind of, can we get into this tournament? Can we cause an upset? Can we do what Ireland did back in 2007 or whatever it might be? Scotland haven't had that. They've been scrabbling around trying to find their passports and get visas for players. They're wondering whether or not their kit's going to turn up and all that kind of stuff. So those things aside, where there's that maybe little bit of last minute going on holiday panic, they've almost not had time to think too much about it. They're just going to turn up and they're going to have no expectations on what they do. And I think that's a good position to be in because I think they can have a good swing at it. So I think if there's an upset in that group, it'll be Scotland. There's a little Kiwi connection in there.
Tom Bruce.
Tom Bruce, descendant of Robert the Bruce, according to I
Really?
made that up. He's not. But yeah, Kiwi connection there. Obviously, a
cool to see him
CD
there, actually.
Central Districts player. And born in the King Country, so you've got a little bit of a Kiwi chap to barrack for there. But yeah,
a little bit of excitement around Italy. Excitement and I guess
Bit of a shame,
angst.
really, isn't it? Yeah.
What do you make of them? No? Yes, no.
No, tough without Joe Burns. I think Joe Burns, not to big up the fact that he was an Australian playing for Italy, but he poured a lot of heart and soul into that campaign, and for him not to be there, I think, is a big letdown for them from a talent perspective. And I think that's where they're going to struggle. I think that's where Italy are going to struggle. I think from a talent perspective, not from a heart perspective. The Azzurri always play with a lot of heart, but I don't think that can make up for it against the likes of the West Indies and England, for example.
yeah,
Cool to see Nepal there. I'm excited to see them. Obviously don't know much about their side. I know they're always well supported wherever they go. I've spent a bit of time there. Love the place. I love the fans will be very excited. But yeah, hard to think that they can do enough to get out of this group.
Group D, Stu. We've been waiting for this, a chance to talk New Zealand exclusively, Stuart.
Exclusively. It's exciting. And I don't know. I mean, you always have a go at me about this, but I think it's hard to argue that this isn't the toughest group on paper in terms of, there are three legitimate sides, I think, that could call themselves a chance to, would have those expectations on themselves to get out of this first group. We've got New Zealand, who's ranked fourth in the tournament. We've got South Africa, who were the finalists last time, and Afghanistan, who made the semi-finals last time, all in this group. So yeah, we'll start with New Zealand. That's obviously where the heart is, and it's funny, we've been smashed in these this series against India. 5 match series, 4-1. As I said before, conceded 270. And in some weird way, it hasn't discouraged me. I know, Raj, I think you said to me that it felt like we were little kids playing against the big boys.
High school first 11.
Yeah. But I think what's really encouraged me in watching this series is the batting lineup, just the way that they've been able to score, with the exception of one game. I think they've been able to get going, put pressure on early on in the innings. You called a couple of weeks ago, I really want to get Tim Seifert and Finn Allen over there. They did. They seemed to make the effort. I'm really encouraged that that the coaching staff wanted them over there. 2, that they obviously wanted to be there. Finn Allen, straight off the BBL final, he's straight over there, gets into this game, scores 80 odd against India. I think it's exciting, and the way that they could build that side, it could be a really deep batting lineup as well, depending a little bit like England, and Australia, maybe depending on kind of the balance of the side that they choose. The one question I'm going to throw over to you, Raj, and I don't think it's going to happen, But is there a scenario where Rachin doesn't make the 11? He's the one that I think out of all of the guys in this series he's had his flashes like he has maybe for the past wee while, but he I don't know. It's probably between him and Conway, I think, for that spot, and I think they'll go with Rachin, but I don't know. Are you starting to be concerned?
I mean, never concerned about any of it. If he's being displaced, it's because there's someone there playing well. But it comes down to if we're rusted on with the notion that Seifert and Finn Allen are going to open the batting.
I would be.
Then, which I agree. Then that changes everything for Conway and for Rachin Ravindra as well. I mean, I see Rachin Ravindra as the kind of guy who would open the batting and bat through. You know, he's not always going to go out there and smash the ball around. That's not necessarily his style of game. His success at the World Cup in India, was it 23 or whatever it was, the one-day World Cup, was batting long and scoring runs and anchoring innings. Doesn't really need to do this here. It's a different type of game now in 2020 cricket. There's no point in anchoring an innings if you're only going to score 180 versus 270, you know. I don't think that's the big one for me. I think that whoever we choose in that top 5 or 6, they have proved over the last little while that they deserve to be there, and they're capable of winning games with the bat.
What are your concerns, boys, about New Zealand when you watch them?
I wasn't going to lead with a concern. I was going to say, I think in a way you've had the ideal preparation, playing
Agreed.
2 series, 50 over and T20 in India. Rachin, I think, plays for me just ceiling wise. He's a gun, and he can win you. Yeah, he can win you a knockout game, I think, on his own. Who keeps wicket if Seifert doesn't?
Well, it'd be Conway. So I think that's I think Seifert. I mean, like I said before, I think he's in. I think they've been leading the way they've built sort of the side over the past 12 months. They've been doing it with that in mind, that Seifert and Allen is what they want to do at the top of the order. They want to be aggressive. They want to try and really say we can be the side. We can be a side that can attack everything.
They've just taken a few different sponsorship gloves over there. They've got 5 or 6 packs. Whoever's going to wicketkeep will just chuck them on before the inning starts.
Look, I don't disagree that that's the way it looks like they're lining up. If I were England, if I were Australia, if I were India, I'd much rather see Tim Seifert coming out to bat rather than Devon Conway. I think Devon Conway is a better option in a World Cup, to be perfectly honest.
Interesting.
So that would be that would be my concern, is just if there's some blind faith in the way that those selections have worked rather than pragmatism and realism. But yeah, you've got some firepower. You've got some bowling.
Got some bowling. I think that's the concern.
You've got to be worried about it. We almost run out of balls in these 2020 games. How far they're going over the boundary.
Yeah, it was. I mean, so the lineup will be interesting because we've seen Adam Milne's been ruled out of the tournament. So
he played.
So Adam Milne's been ruled out. I mean, Kyle Jamieson has been included in the squad. Ben Sears is now over there as the travelling reserve. There's Lockie has returned from injury. That was really, really encouraging. I thought he bowled pretty well, actually. Everyone kind of got deposited out of the attack at different points, but it was a nice ball to get rid of Abhishek in the last game. Just seemed to have his pace, seemed to have his good rhythm. So I was pleased to see that, and I think that he should play. I'd be picking him. There's lots of question marks about. There's both him and Matt Henry have got babies due. During this tournament, there's talk of them being released for short-term paternity leave. Who knows what's going to happen there. There's also an injury cloud over Michael Bracewell, and I think in a weird way he's quite an important cog in terms of how we balance our side. If he's not fit, then it means you're probably bringing in either a specialist batsman in Chapman, or you're bringing in Neesham, who doesn't bowl spin. It means there's maybe more overs for Glenn Phillips. I think Bracewell, even though he hasn't necessarily been the most impactful in terms of his output, I think just the way he balances that side makes him quite an important cog. So his injury availability will be interesting.
It's an interesting question without notice. Do you think that there is value in New Zealand chasing every time, because we just don't know what's going to happen with the ball, and I don't know if we can trust them to defend a total.
Fair point.
Maybe. I mean, it has been that the power play, we talked about it a lot last week. The power play and the death bowling is going to be the big concerns because, I do have faith in Henry. I do have faith in Duffy. I think Ferguson can do it. But, and Santner, I love, on paper, I do like the side. I really do think there's a lot of potential there. I think there's a lot of balance. I think there's good. They feel much more like a cohesive 2020 side that can win a tournament than some of the other teams that we've had that have actually gone quite far. But it's hard to watch that series and think these guys are just getting absolutely towelled up no matter where they bowl. They're bowling full, they get hit. They bowl short, they get hit. I think we had that 10 minutes, 15 minutes on how do you bowl in a power play, and we came to the conclusion, I think, by the end that swing is very, very important. And I don't think we have the prodigious... I know that some of those guys can do it. They can swing the ball, like Jameson and Henry. They swing it a bit, but I don't think we have the prodigious, like Shaheen Shah Afridi, Ashdeep Singh, Trent Bolt, those kind of players that can kind of whip through a couple of wickets in that power play. It just doesn't... it doesn't feel like we have that in the same way that some of the other sides have. And if you don't get wickets in that power play, you're just going to be under the pump.
Should we move on and talk a little bit about South Africa and maybe Afghanistan, Stu? I don't know how you've pitched this in terms of your thinking, but yeah.
I do think South Africa's the clear... I think South Africa's the lock to get out of this group, personally. I think they're a fantastic side. I've been on the South Africa train. For anyone who's been listening, I really, really rate South Africa. I think they've been playing great cricket in sort of all formats for a decent amount of time now. This is not... they made the semi-final. They made the final of the last tournament. They played very well in that final. Went right down to the wire as well. They had been piling on the runs against the West Indies this week. Markram's in form, De Kock's in form after his, sort of I'm retired now, I'm not retired. I think one of you guys called that on the pod at the time when that happened. There's Ryan Rickleton's been in runs. There's Devok Brevis, Stubbs. There's just so much power in that batting lineup, and they've got lots and lots of bowling options as well. And Rabada and Janssen and Maharaj, like they just feel like a side that can handle any conditions as well. They're just really well rounded and they're playing great cricket, and they feel like a side that has that belief that they can beat anyone in a way that some South African sides in the past sort of haven't felt like that. It feels like now that they've got over that threshold, they've made it into finals, they've won the World Test Championship. It feels like they just carry themselves as a good side now, and they, I don't know. I mean, they do have some injury questions. David Miller's been said that he's been past fit, so that's a big positive for them. But there's, clouds over Ngidi and Brevis, and they've already had to replace De Zorzi and Ferreira. So, Norkia's back, which is quite cool to see him back after a long injury absences. But, I think they're a good side.
Can I ask you about their spin options? I think for those who watched the SA T20, George Linder had a good tournament. We know what Keshav Maharaj can do, but are they light on sort of, I guess, those all-rounders or those batters who bowl a bit of spin options, or are they not going to be concerned with the seam battery that they've got?
Maybe. I wonder how much Aidan Markram will bowl. We've seen him bowl opening overs at the start. Sometimes he's one of those guys who, comes in, bowls the first over sometimes. So we may see that. Like if they can sneak some overs out of him, and then they've got, like we said, all of those other guys like Janssen who can bat, Mahara. I think again about a few months ago, I'm sure that I called Keshav Maharaj the best all format spinner going around, and I still got to stand by that because he's just turned himself into someone who can bowl tight if that's what you need him to do. He can try and get a wicket. I really rate him. So having that frontline spinner. You're right, and maybe that they don't have kind of the battery that some of these other sides and like a side like Pakistan, who we mentioned before, they have 4 or 5, in Nawaz and Salman Ali Agha and Sam Ayub. They have a lot of bowlers that can bowl spin, even like New Zealand, with Rachin and Phillips and stuff that can bowl spin. But I think that having the frontline spinner, to me, is almost more valuable than all the little bits and pieces bowlers.
He also keeps elastoplast in business, doesn't he, Maharaj? I don't think I've ever seen anyone with more dodgy digits. Upsets from the group, Stu?
Well, if you want to call
is
it...
Afghanistan an upset from the group?
Well, I don't think so, personally. I mean, I feel less confident about them than I did going into the last tournament. I know last tournament I was really worried about playing them. I think the conditions, the sort of pitches that we saw in the West Indies and in the USA, I think most of their games are in the West Indies from memory. But I think that they aided the kind of cricket that Afghanistan plays. But, it's the same crew pretty much that are all back, and any side that has Gurbaz, Ibrahim and Rashid Khan, they can beat anyone on their day. Those guys get going. Though, Rashid Khan bowls a brilliant spell. There's Omarzai, there's Noor Ahmad, there's Faruqi, Naveen, Majib, Gulbadin might fall over again. We've got lots of, they're going to be a good side. They're going to be a challenge. If you don't turn up when you play against Afghanistan, if New Zealand don't turn up, if South Africa don't turn up, they're going to get rolled over. So yeah, it's the same sort of story for Afghanistan, and I mean that in a good way. Like they're starting to, they're not going to be an easy beat in this tournament.
They're playing them first.
Yeah,
New Zealand's playing them first.
Yeah. So, but I think I feel better about our batting lineup to be able to handle their bowling if we see a really good surface. I think that New Zealand might be able to post a better score than last time around where we really struggled for runs in that tournament. So yeah, fingers crossed. And I don't know, UAE and Canada. Look, I just think it's going to be too tough for them. And we're at an hour, and I know Baldy wants to keep this in
too late.
Yeah, but no, I don't have, like I said about the other ones. It's sort of, I do enjoy seeing these sides. I know that some people don't like the 20-team format. It's quite cool to see some of the sides that, from my point of view, I don't get to see very often. So I'm excited to see them, but I couldn't tell you that they're going to cause an upset against any of those three sides.
Yeah. Right. Let's move to predictions before Baldy kicks you out of his house. In terms of the way we'll do this, so let's just quickly go along the line. Let's name our semi-finalists, our top run scorer and our top wicket taker without too much superfluous information. And then we'll come on to bold predictions and a winner at the end of the pod. So, Raj, I might start with you, semi-finalists, and then your wicket taker and your run scorer.
I have got Australia and India as the semi-finalists out of Group 1 or Group
I think it is Group 1, yeah.
Whatever it is. And then the Group B, I've got New Zealand and England to come out of there. I think it will be a New Zealand-Australia semi and a India-England semi. Those permutations can work.
Yep,
Good.
they can.
Okay,
I believe so.
So New Zealand top their Super 8 pool then? And that would be against...
Or other way, or whichever way around it is.
Yeah,
I think that... probably you're right. I think that New Zealand get out of there first and play Australia, who are second.
Yep.
And India is first against England, who is second, probably. That's what I'm going with from... are we doing batter and bowler?
Yep. Yes. Can be the same person. Doesn't have to be.
I'm going to go all in with India. I think that Abhishek Sharma is going to have an incredible tournament with the bat. And I actually think the sort of real hero of this World Cup with the ball is going to be Varun Chakravarthy. That mystery spinner, sort of after, I've written this down, I'm going to read it out, after years in the wilderness as that mystery spinner. He's now ranked the top 2020 bowler in the world. Yeah. He's coming off a dominant 2025. And I think him along with Kuldeep are going to be very, very hard to score against through those middle stages for anyone playing India. But Chakravarthy and Abhishek Sharma.
Baldy?
Bold predictions to go with my semi-finalists. India and West Indies to come out of Pool A in the Super 8s, and New Zealand and Sri Lanka to come out of the second pool, which means that Pakistan and England both missed out, and also Australia and South Africa miss out from that pool. So it's a big hill to climb for the West Indies, but they're going to do it on the back of Akil Hussain, who will be the leading wicket taker, in conjunction with, tied with, Wanindu Hasaranga.
Okay.
So I've got both of those wicket taking threats. Yep, tied, equal with I don't know, let's say 5, 6, 22 wickets each.
Okay.
Top the tournament, 23 wickets.
Yep.
That's what I'm calling. But I've got Travis Head as my leading run scorer. I think Australia are going to rely heavily on him. I would be remiss if I didn't say that he's our biggest opportunity to go deep in the tournament. He'll get plenty of opportunity to go hard in the power play. Travis Head, leading run scorer.
Has he come home from the pub yet?
What?
Has he come home from the pub yet?
Travis Head?
I saw an Instagram reel in front of his TV, so I'm sure he's at home.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
I do like how you've played both sides there by saying Australia won't make it into the semi-finals, but Travis Head will win. Will score the most runs. He's going to score a lot of runs.
He's going to score a lot of runs.
A lot of runs in that group play.
And the Super 8s. Remember,
in the Super 8s. Yeah. Okay, so I've gone very similar to Raj, and I've actually gone though India to play England in the semi-final and New Zealand to play South Africa in the semi-final in terms of how they balance out. But same four sides. For the most runs, I've gone Aiden Markram. I just think South Africa's really good, and he's had a good SA 20. He's kind of he just feels like a guy who has turned the corner in terms of consistent output now that we're starting to get from him. So I think he'll have a very, very strong tournament. And I actually have Ashdeep Singh and Mitchell Santner as my, if we're going to go tied, I think that those two are the two top wicket takers in the tournament. I think Santner's going to have a good one. That group that New Zealand will end up in, if they make it through into that Super 8s, they'll be playing all of their games in Sri Lanka. That Group 2 or whatever it's called, Group B, they'll be all in Sri Lanka. So I think that might after back end of the tournament, go Mitchell Santner. Over to you, Binksy.
Yeah, so I'm just worrying whether I've got the permutations right here. So my four semi-finalists, India, South Africa, England and New Zealand. So I'm hopeful that can happen.
Yep. That can happen.
That can happen, good. I've got the decoder ring and made sure that works. So those are my four semi-finalists. In terms of runs, and I've genuinely, when we used to do the pod in person, I always used to look at Raj's notes on his iPad. I promise you that. Well, I've not been able to do it because
I'm so happy that's recorded.
Turn around. Abhishek Sharma, I've got for run scorer. I just think that he could take down a couple of those lesser teams in the group play, and then I think continue his form throughout the tournament. And then I've got Axar Patel as wicket taker because I think the way that he bowls the ball into the surface again, I think he'll cause havoc not only against the better nations, but I think he'll clean up he'll clean up some of the other guys as well. So those are my predictions.
So no one's got Pakistan to make semi-finals?
No, I thought about it. I thought about it long and hard because I do think those pitches will, if we think that those pitches are going to be, 160, 170 kind of wickets rather than 200, I do think that suits them a lot better. But we'll see. Also,
just with the Super 8s, anything can happen in there. The teams are all so tightly compacted. Rain can happen. That's why I said to you before the pod, I feel like that Super 8s is, while hopefully the best teams will be there, I feel like it can be a little bit of a lottery.
Yep.
Yeah, one of my things that I wrote in bold predictions, which I don't think is really a bold prediction. Well, they're both sort of the same. I don't feel that there's going to be upsets in that. And I think that we will see the top 8 make it through. If maybe Afghanistan does, but it's so hard to see any of those other sides making it through, and that means to me that Super 8s is going to be excellent. I really think that there's a lot of good sides. There's a lot of sides in there that feel like they can tip each other over. I haven't felt that in the past, even though, maybe we do all see India as the side that, on paper is the strongest. I think there's a lot of good teams that can think, okay, we can beat that team on the day.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah.
The 2 through 8 feels really close to me, which is why I've got Sri Lanka and the West Indies, because I think if those sides get on a roll, those are sides that could, really do some damage in both of those pools.
Yeah.
Make some upsets.
Well, let's just hope there's not too much rain during that Super 8 stage, because that could be one thing that, puts a dampener on it, so to speak. Right, winners.
Winners or bold prediction? Winners. I'll go. Head says India, heart says New Zealand. It's as simple as that for me. I think New Zealand is. I think like I said before, I think New Zealand has the balanced kind of side that they can go deep in this tournament, but it's hard to pick them against India when I've just seen India demolish them 4-1. So, yeah, head says India, heart says New Zealand.
I can't go past India. They're too big, too strong, too fast.
We're going for bold predictions.
Oh, bold predictions? No. I've already given mine.
This is winner.
We're done.
West Indies and Sri Lanka to make the semis was my bold prediction.
This is winner. We still have bold predictions at the end.
India.
I think, there's the reason that I thought bold predictions coming first, because I feel like this lets the cat out of the bag a little bit. I think New Zealand's going to win.
Oh, I love it.
Oh, I like that.
New Zealand's going to win this.
Wow.
Cool.
Very good. Cool. Well, for me, similar to Stu, head says India, heart says Italy. So I think, I think it's definitely India that are taking home the trophy. Baldy, let's come to you for your bold prediction first.
I've already given mine. West Indies and Sri Lanka to make the semi-finals is my bold prediction for this World Cup.
And did you have another one other than that, Raj? New Zealand wins?
So the other side of that coin is I think that India goes unbeaten to the final and loses the final.
To New Zealand.
It's reminiscent to 2023, the 50 over
World Cup.
World
Yeah.
Cup.
Okay. Exactly what happened.
I'll say a few of mine very quickly because you can, again, kind of decide whether you think these are bold or not. Abhishek Sharma will finish with a strike rate of over 200 in this World Cup. Maybe that's not bold. Australia will finish last in the Super 8 group.
Yeah,
I think
I think
that's
bold.
Yeah,
that's bold, but I can see that happening.
You've predicted
I can see that happening.
And I mentioned the other two, and then a team cracks 300 in this tournament. I think. Again, maybe biased of what I watched last night in India making 270 and having a couple of slow overs there early on and still managing to crack 270. But
all throughout the series, like they've scored or chased down 200 or whatever.
Yeah.
Done it in 10 overs,
Easy.
15 overs.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think if they win the toss and bat first against some of those teams, it could be drama.
Yeah, and throughout the tournament, if we're going to see lots of those pool games on wickets that are, look like that are going to be hard to bowl on, there's some firepower in this tournament, and I think someone's going to get going, and we might see 300 finally.
Yeah, this is why we should probably put our bold predictions into the notes before the pod, so we don't have this kind of situation. So I've got the same as you. So I've got a 300 plus score. Let me change that slightly to say we'll see an over in this World Cup go for more than 36. There you go.
That's very interesting.
I've had
more
to
than
make
36
just
wow.
because we've got the same one. So we'll have a little Noe that goes for 6, and then some carnage ensuing after that. There you go. But my real
couple
one
of 5 wides.
I think we'll see above 300. Sorry, Baldy.
Okay.
A couple of lots of 5 wides. I know they're your favourite.
5 wides. There's nothing better than 5 wides when you're batting, is there? It's brilliant. 5 wides. Get in. Right. That is all we've got time for on the Top Order podcast. So we've got one ridiculously emotional decision, Raj on the end going for New Zealand to lift the trophy. 3 people that have got pragmatic views and have looked at the form book and gone for India. Of course, we'd probably all be wrong. And we'll see the Azuri lifting that trophy come March. But that is all we've got time for on the Top Order podcast this week. We are going to be in your feeds, though, pretty frequently throughout the tournament. Whilst it might not be every single day, we will be jumping on as often as we can throughout the course of the tournament for little 15 or 20-minute snapshots of what's going on in this World Cup from both the Antipodes and also from the Northern Hemisphere when Jamie's back on deck. But it is good night from us all here in both Auckland and the UK. We'll see you soon. Good night.